Hello, everyone. Today we got to play Anno 1800. So this is a tech building tree game, but before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because you want to support our channel.
And you like board games, and you like us.
Yeah.
Because we're awesome.
Because we are awesome. Or at least I'm awesome. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm mediocre.
Anyway, so let's dig into it. Randy, tell us more about this particular game.
So this one was based upon a computer game by the Anno. I don't know if it's always called 1800. But
now, can I have this computer game?
Well, I'm sure you can.
Okay.
There's no reason you couldn't purchase it. They were available out there readily, I'm sure.
Well, this might be a good Christmas gift.
Okay. This game was released originally in 2020, but it was only released in Europe. So it was released in the U.S. in 2021.
Okay.
So it just recently came out. It plays 2 to 4 players. Mm-hmm. It says its average length is 120 minutes. I don't know what kind of math they do for that because it took longer than 120 minutes to play. I think it took about 3 hours to play, and the setup time on this is pretty heavy. So,
yeah. What did they? 120 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's light.
Guys, no.
It's a long game.
Him and Randy were playing, so Robert and Randy were playing this the first time. It took you at least 3 hours.
Well, we had to learn the game, too.
Right, but it took you over 3 hours. It was closer to 4. And then we played with 4 people.
And it was 3 hours.
And it was 3 hours, and we didn't have to learn the game, but it still took, this game takes a minute.
Yeah. Designed by Martin Wallace, very popular designer.
Mm-hmm.
Art, I'm sorry because I don't know how you pronounce this last name. Fiore GmbH. Good luck with that one. No vowels whatsoever. GmbH. Published by Cosmos, and it has an MSRP of $69.95. I did find it online with several different retailers for $48.99 or $49.99, that $50 range. So you can find it about $50. It has a Board Game Geek rating of 7.9 and currently a Board Game Geek rank of 614. So it's not bad. I do want to point out, separately from this, my first Christmas present of the year is very appropriate for me. It's like this. I don't need to speak to anyone anymore because my shirt says everything about me. Introvert, but willing to discuss board games.
Except you're not introverted.
I am totally introverted. So anyway, back to the game. So let's talk about the quality of pieces.
Board game, cardboard. There's a lot of cardboard.
There's definitely a lot of cardboard.
There's a lot of wooden squares.
There's wooden squares and cardboard. That's in cards. The cards have no linen finish. They are decent.
Okay, not good, but okay.
No, they're decent. It does have a 2-piece puzzle-like cardboard main board, and then some large cardboard. You have your main island, and then 2 auxiliary islands that you can add to and expand your island.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's all you get is cardboard and a little bit of wood.
Now there's quite a bit of cardboard.
Yes, there is a lot of bits in this game, and that's why it takes a long time to set up. It didn't take as long for me this time because once I punch everything and you get it bagged, you can set it up. But because each piece there's most of them there's 2 of each kind, but you have to match them all up. So if you don't have them organized well, you're going to take forever assembling the puzzle of what all the pieces go. The boats and the boat yards, there's more of those. But yeah, there's just a ton of bits to put out, and then a lot of cards as well.
Yeah.
We replaced the gold bits with our metal gold from the
we did
stone iron. So that's the only bit that we could really find a replacement for. But yeah, it helped.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you could replace it because they're all pretty unique. Maybe the workers. They're cubes.
Yeah, maybe you could get meeples if you wanted, but
yeah, nothing really that great. So quality of pieces, 6. There's nothing fantastic. There's just a lot of bits.
There's just a ton of it. Yeah, I'd say 6. I mean, there is a lot in the box for the $50-$60 that you pay, but it's still pretty pricey.
Yeah. All right, so then let's talk about theme. Art's really great. I actually, you're in a Victorian time era, 1800, obviously.
It'll be early, going into the 1900s with the types of Industrial Revolution stuff, not 1800.
Then why is the thing
Well,
called 1800?
Okay, I guess I guess that would be a good point. But you wouldn't have electricity in the early 1800s. That's more.
That's why you got to develop it.
Yeah, I'm saying you're moving into the 1900s with
Right. It takes a minute. Like, you got to start out,
Yeah.
And let me tell you, like, the whole steam engine was crapping hard to get.
Yes. All right. It's definitely taking you through the 1800s into the early 1900s.
Right. So, so it is a tech building tree in the fact that you start out with some basic resources and you have to use those to eventually build. And I do think, and you also upgrade your workers and things like that. So as far as theme goes, I really did appreciate it. The art is very consistent with the theme. It felt right. So, I mean, some of that quality of components may have detracted a little bit from theme, but then the art's there to kind of back it up. So what are your kind of thoughts on
Well, I mean, it is a good theme for this kind of game. It is. You're going towards the Industrial Revolution. Some of it doesn't feel chronologically correct. Like, you have steel girders is one of the earlier basic things. That would be later in the development. But yeah, I mean, there's things that definitely feel like they're out of order. But from the
glasses were
made,
glasses were made pretty early. But
glasses would have been there when Benjamin Franklin was there.
Yeah, but they were a little bit later in the actual technical
But yeah,
tree.
Some of the stuff is...
Maybe it's more of mass production of glasses versus...
Yeah, I think it's maybe designer glasses. I don't know. But yeah, they didn't make a lot of sense, some of the stuff.
Well, and like the fur coat, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that in it. I just more thought them as fine tailored clothes or something like that.
But no, I mean, it's still, you are seeing the overall, the development of the industry.
Yeah, which I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So overall, theme-wise, I'm going to give this a 7. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a 7's a good score for it. It fits the gameplay very well, but I think there are some chronological issues with some of the choices.
Correct, I agree with that.
And the art of the actual tiles, there's nothing interesting about it. It's very basic, but it does get the point across. So it's effective for the game, but it's not very pretty.
Okay. All right, so now let's talk about rules. So you and Robert learned this.
Yeah, the rule book is a beast. It is 16 pages long, but it's a heavy read. First of all, it doesn't have a cover. It goes straight into components on the cover. Then it goes into a 2-page setup. The setup's pretty nice. It's got a nice illustration of a 4-player game and where everything goes, and it's labeled nicely. Then you're going into all of the different actions, and I think it's because it's a heavier game. I would call this a medium to heavy game by far. It's not something that's an easy game. There's just so much to do with one action on a turn, but there's so many choices to make.
Oh my goodness, yes. It was like, I need to do all the things. Like, I need to do all the things, and you can't do all the things. And I'm like, why can't you do all the things?
Right. So it needed to be this length. So I mean, it's only 16 pages, but it is pretty detailed. Which
is good because it's very clear on what you had to do.
Yeah, so. And the actions individually are not that hard. I mean, they're all fairly basic. And the nice thing is there's a really good cheat sheet that has all the different choices on it on one side, and then all of the tiles on the other, which is really useful because...
This actually is a really phenomenal cheat sheet.
You didn't have to look at the board and kind of show what you were going after. Cause
I know.
Being that there's only 2 of each industry out there, and if you're playing more than 2 players, it is going to be kind of sometimes cutthroat where somebody like Caleb will steal your tile.
I know, but honestly, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked limited...
Yeah. No, I think it needed that.
I did, because when you play with more players, it
made
makes
the trade ships very important.
Right, which I had plethora of.
Which, when we played 2-player, that was almost non-existent. We didn't really use trade ships because I could just build what I wanted, and Robert could just build what he wanted because there's 2 copies out there.
Yeah, you just needed to explore a lot, so I bet you built a bunch of military
exactly.
ships. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think going back to the rulebook, it's laid out in the correct way. It's just a heavy read because it is a heavy game. There's no 2 ways about it. It's again, not that the actions themselves are heavy, it's just there's a lot of them. It does have a nice reference on the back, but again, you wouldn't need it because the cheat sheet it does a better job than this actual back page reference. But it does reference where in the book you can find.
Oh, well, then that's helpful, because if you look on here, then you can go over here and be like, okay, this is where I need to go.
I'll say this is a pretty well designed book for this complex of a game. I'll give it a 9. I think it's a good rule book. Oh, it's just heavy. Guys.
Yeah. So now let's talk about gameplay. So gameplay. Whew, there's a lot going on in here. So there's a lot of.
Yeah. So let's tell them about the startup. So start the game. You have 4 green, 3 blue workers, and 2 red workers, which correspond to these cards. So these cards match on the color. This is a green and blue. So you will have 7 of these cards, 1 for each worker, and you'll have 2 of these red, purple, and teal cards because they correspond with the red, purple, and teal workers, which you have 2 of.
Yeah, it's almost like I felt like it's a way for them to meet their dreams. Like they had to have these things to meet their dreams.
But the cards are super important in this game because that's where all your victory points come from.
Most of them.
Yeah, most all of them. You got some in-game scoring, but yeah, for the most part, those cards are.
Yeah. So one of the actions, obviously, is by putting your workers on the appropriate resources to trigger all the cards.
To play the cards.
Yeah, to play the cards. So in this particular instance, you needed a basic outfit, coffee, and a cannon. So for him to have his dream job, he's obviously a military captain. So you put your 3 workers of the appropriate color on there, and then you end up triggering this card. This particular benefit of this card gives you 3 one-time use military.
Right. Which at the beginning of the game, you start with 3 ships, one military and 2 trade.
Right.
So you'll get tokens that correspond that you go on here, and you can use those also. They're not goods, but the trade goods can be used to trade for other people's goods, and the military lets you expand your island.
Right. So that was the other piece of it, right? So we talked about trading, where you can trade with somebody else. The attacking, which you can expand the island, or you can even go and find some really cool resources, like,
or you can throw them across the table.
I can do that. Like cocoa beans, like tobacco, like wool, to make particular kinds. And this is the only place to get them. You can't actually build them on the island that you're in. You do have to trade for those.
And they're your own private trade. Nobody can trade.
Right. No one else can trade for them. So you have to expose them, and then you personally can only trade for them. So that's beneficial as far as that's concerned. So one of the so we talked about expanding, which is what's done through the military. We talked about playing and activating population cards, which are these here. And then swapping population cards, you can slide up to 3 hand cards under their respective stacks and then draw the same number of cards from the same stacks. I wish I had known that. I forgot about that.
Because while you're developing your island, it's almost impossible to build everything. So you may get cards that just don't work well with the things you built. You can trade up to 3 cards in, but you have to take cards back. And these cards, the thing is, it's very misleading because the game ends when somebody plays all of their cards. But every time you get a new worker, you're going to get more cards. So you start out with 9 cards, but it's going to turn into maybe 20 or 30 cards before the end of the game because you keep getting more for every worker you play.
Yeah.
And for exploring the island, you get 3 for exploring the
Well, I mean, a lot of times I ended up with population cards. I ended up just having to trade a lot of stuff for, which luckily I had a large fleet, so I was able to do that. Increase your workforce, so that's getting more workers. So you produce resources in order to place 3 new population cubes in the residential. So the requirements for each worker is above here on your player board to tell you what the cost is going to be. There is also an upgrade action to your workers. So basically there is a cost here in between each of the workers. So you have an abundance of green that then therefore you could pay to bring them up to blue and red. You can do a max of 3 per action. So I thought that was pretty useful.
But again, if you take a worker, not an upgrade, but if you add a worker, you're going to gain a card.
Correct.
So that was probably the biggest surprise to me in this game. Was I was not expecting that mechanic. So
yeah, It worked, though.
It does work in this game, but I was not expecting it. So I sat down thinking it was going to be one thing completely different. I didn't think the cards were going to be as critical as they are, even though that's where the points were. I just wasn't in my head because there was so much I was reading in that book. I'm thinking, okay, I need to build my island out. But ultimately, the cards were really the most important thing. And it's like, every time I gain a worker, I'm getting more cards. Oh, crud. And then, oh, I need those trade goods. Oh, but that gives me 3 more cards. And now my hand is just like huge, and I've got this, hand. It's a hand management thing as well that I was not expecting.
Well, I didn't mind getting as many cards as whatever because.
Well, yeah, they're all worth points, but it's a double-edged sword in this game because one, you
don't get a penalty for not completing.
You don't get a penalty for not completing them, but if you want to end the game, you have to get rid of them, and there is a bonus for getting rid of you being the first out because you get the 7-point victory points.
Right, I did get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and my biggest thing, so we'll talk about a little bit of strategy. So open up the old world. We already talked about that in exploring the new world. That's what you do with the attack bonuses. We are kind of going over those. Take expedition cards. You can exhaust 2 exploration tokens, which are I call them attack because they're 2 swords. I guess they're exploration tokens. In order to draw up to 3 of the expedition cards, which are end of game victory points for the workers that you have. So if you'll notice this has like 2 purple workers. So if you were able at the end of the game to place 2 purple workers on this, you get 2 victory points for each of them. Some of the end-of-game bonus cards may have additional points depending on some of those icons.
Now, what we didn't talk about is when you expand your island, the first time it takes 1 military.
Right.
But then each island component you add for that type, so they're tracked separately.
So there is that cheat sheet.
It goes up. Yeah, it's on the board.
Found on the board.
On the board for you. But you have to pay 1 more military for each add-on of the same type of island.
Right.
So that was kind of a cool mechanism as well.
And then you have the Celebrated Festival. That's just basically your reset. You put all the work. You send all the workers home, and then you can start fresh with a new round of workers. Which this game, not all workers are the same. So in a lot of games you have where if you have the higher level workers, they can go do lower level actions. That is not the case in this game.
No.
And that makes it kind of rough because you have to have the right amount of workers at the right amount of time because like early in the game I would run out of reds. So I bulked up my reds, but then I had too many reds, not enough purples and blues or teals. It was. You say hand management, but it's also worker management because you have to get those upgraded. At the end, I was having, I used green a lot, but at the end, I used 1 around. I had a pile of green, so I just tried to advance them.
But the worker management plays into the hand management because, I need more green. I can easily build more green, but that means I have to take on more cards. And it's I thought I was going to go out soon. No, I'm not because I have more cards now.
Right, so it's very interesting how that all works, and you're just hoping, I hope it's something that I already have. I hope it's something I already have. I got
on top of that, about half the cards in the green and blue particularly give you more workers. So you're building out, it's like you build the card and that gives you 2 more workers. Oh great, I get 2 more cards for this one that I just
but they're still low level. Andrew complained. I was like, how do you finish those so quickly? Well, I had all the low level buildings, so I was just being able to, and just trade for the one little few ones that I didn't end up getting. And so I was able to get rid of those actually pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the game. So those I didn't find a huge stress thing. And then active objective cards.
Yeah.
That's these up here.
So there's 2 kinds of cards. There's you put out 5 potentially in-game cards, but there are 2 kinds. Ones that are truly in-game where you get victory points at the end of the game. And then you have objective special ability cards that you can trigger by paying the cost on them. We didn't really use them too much. The last game I did get extra gold 1 time.
Did you see this one? I would have totally used this one.
Or you get an extra action.
Yeah. 3, because I had so much.
Yeah, because again, with all of the stuff you do, you only get 1 action per turn. So your turn goes by pretty quick. Well, depending on who you are. Caleb, we had to wait on a lot.
Oh my gosh. Love you, Andrew. Overall though, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this game quite a bit.
I like it. I think it's a little dry though. I find it to be, it's just 1 action felt like it was insufficient. It would feel like your turn comes, all right, by my turn, by the time it gets around to me, I already know what I'm going to do. Because
it should be really quick. Well, we had to wait.
Yeah, we had to wait, and it's like, this is very dry for me to take a 1 second turn to let somebody else go, and then wait another 10 minutes for my turn to come back around again.
That has to do with players.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily have to do with the game. That's not really fair to the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's not like there's that many choices to make, but you do have to manage. I mean, there's a lot of actions you can.
Well,
take.
I mean, I know there was a couple times I was battling of like, do I do this one thing which doesn't really net me anything, or do I reset? Right. And I hate to reset because I wasted a whole turn, but it was like, well,
yeah,
I need red workers and they're all out on the board, or I need purple workers, they're all out on the board. Like, I didn't have a choice.
And resetting feels very painful in this game.
It does.
it's like, because now you got to wait another 10 to 15 minutes for your turn to come back around so you can take one action again, but you just wasted it by taking all the people.
It should be 10 to 15 minutes if you have the right group of people.
Well, there is the thought, because you kind of have to plan out, okay, I'm going to try to play these cards, and I'm going to need to build these buildings, and therefore I need to assign these workers. Well, you got to make sure you have those workers. So there is some of that just in time, making sure you have everything you need lined up for multiple actions, while you're playing it.
But if you have, if everyone...
But then you have to wait so many turns to do those actions. That's what's the frustrating. If I could play 3 of those actions at once, it wouldn't be nearly as painful, but to do one action and then wait for my entire round for it to come back to me to do the next thing.
I mean, I can see that. I can see where maybe 2 actions would have been beneficial.
I think that, it feels like one action was a very, maybe strategically that's what it needed. It just feels dry because of that, I think. But it's still a very interesting puzzle because of that. And I do like the mechanics of this
it may have to do with end of game. Like, when you have 3 in a row, like when the end of game is triggered.
Yeah, you could end up, that does give you a huge advantage ending the game and then you would have multiple actions left. I agree. It just feels like the game's slow because of that. And the fact that you do plan out multiple rounds at once.
Well, maybe you house rule it, like the first X many rounds will play 3.
Well, again, I don't like the house rule.
Yeah, so I know, but I'm just thinking about if you're trying to fix this particular issue for you.
If you don't mind slow, long games, this is a great one. I think if you're into those kind of games, if you like more fast-paced things, this is definitely not the game for you. It is a very slow-paced game.
So, let's give it a score.
There's so much I like about this game. I think it overcomes that kind of slowness factor. I like the fact that it's a brain burner. I like the fact that there's a lot to do here. For me, it is a good game. I don't know it's going to be right for everybody. And definitely, if you do not like slow-paced, long games, this is the wrong game for you. If you don't like games that require a significant setup time, I wouldn't say that it's horrible. There's definitely way worse games.
No, this isn't bad compared to I think of Cocoa Trader or Coffee Traders, and I think of Agricola. Those are
not Lacerda level, but it is a slow. It does take a while to get all the pieces out. But I did it here for this video pretty quick. So
like you said, organization is key.
I'm probably going to give this an 8.5. I think is where I'm at.
I'm okay with that. I think an 8.5 is good with this one because there's a lot of things I liked about this. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it. It didn't hurt that I won. But I thought overall it was really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I won against Robert, so at least I won and you won this game. So.
Yeah.
But
but I beat you. It feels a lot better.
That's because there was some collusion going on in this game.
Oh no!
Yes. No. You and Caleb were exclusively trading with each other.
You played before. We had not.
You got this and you got this. Well, I'm going to trade with Caleb. The only time I got traded with was because y'all needed sausage. I was the sausage king.
You are sausage king.
Well, we won't go into that. All right. So, I mean, it definitely, if you have collusion against you, it can get frustrating too. That was another frustration during the game. But at the end,
well, to be fair though, you can set up yourself 4 monopolies.
You can't because
you can't.
No, you can only buy one of each industry. There's 2 out there, so somebody else is by default going to have another
Yeah,
one.
I
or
think that would get. I
I
think that would get a little bit better with 4 players.
Yeah.
Like I think this game only gets better when you hit the max of 4
because
players.
with 2-player, there's the trade goods become less important because you can both buy an industry out there. They're both out there. You don't take out one for the 2-player version. So it makes it more. You're worried about military boats and just building out your factories.
Yeah.
So it's still a fun game. Doesn't take away that much, but the trade ships are not as nearly as important.
Yeah.
But with 3 players, the trade ships were very important, and they're going to become more important with 4. Because
I think that's actually why I ended up taking it, is because I had so many trade actions.
Yeah.
I was able to complete cards that I didn't have to build. Like,
And
there were a couple options where it's like, okay, I can build that, but I only need it the one time so far in my hand. Well, I'm just going to trade for it.
Yeah, and we did leave one thing out. When you trade, the person who you trade with gets a gold, one of these gold
Yeah, and it's not your gold.
It's from the bank.
So, like, there's no negative to you except your player gets a gold. But the only way you can use gold is to reset a worker. But, like, your high-level workers, like your teal costs 5, your purple costs 4. So, it's pretty...
So, it gives you a recall of a single worker, so you don't have to recall all of your
Right,
workers.
but it takes multiple gold to do that. So I felt like there was no negative. I mean, there's a little bit, but not a huge negative for to trade.
No.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to trade the crap out of everything I have. If I don't have to build it, great. Because, and I think that's the thing is like, and I think that's why I ended up winning is because I had so many ships, I had so many trade, and I didn't have to, but then I had to build the ships to be able to do that. So, I think there's strategies, especially when you get more players.
Yeah.
With that, and I think that's actually a really cool mechanism.
And a couple other details. Each factory only has 2 spots for workers, so there's the need for the workers, but there's also the fact that you can clutter a factory with workers and not be able to use it if you need it. So you have to get those workers back. So recalling is important for that reason because it opens up a spot.
Right, I had that happen because like freaking coal was freaking hard to get. And I almost built the blue level coal just so I had 4 options for coal. Well, you were smart.
Yeah. So the other thing is you've got the boats. You have boat docks or whatever that you can build, but they have to be on the coast. And that the number of shipyards, what they mean, the number of shipyards you have is how many boats you can build in a single action. So having lots of shipyards is useful because you can not have to require multiple actions to build.
Yeah, but the problem is you only have 2 sails.
Yeah.
And it requires a sail for every ship you build. So
but there is a sail tile, too, that you can build.
Yeah, but how many ships do you really need?
Well, yeah, but getting them, you took advantage of them, and that's how you won the game.
Right, well, but my thing is like, just build a 2 and build a 3 and call it a day.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, too. I didn't spend a lot of time on the ship. As a matter of fact, I only built a 2. I didn't even build the 3.
I didn't build the 3 either, but only because it was freaking expensive, and by the time I got to it, it was a mute point.
Yeah. Now, Caleb did build a 3, but it didn't really pan out for him a whole lot. So.
Yeah, I think it's too far. I think the requirements were too hefty.
Yeah.
So, not gonna lie. I mean, it's just the requirements to build a level 3. I could build a, 2 or 3 level 1s or 2, and then, make it work that way.
But again, because the fact that we're having these conversations is why we enjoyed this game, because it's one of these things that you're going to think about afterwards and think, oh, I could have done this better and I could have done that better. And it's I won't say it's like Battlestar where it's an interesting story afterwards.
No,
it's not something you're going to think about and be like, oh, how this happened and this happened. It's something you're going to think about, what could I have done better?
Well, and I think the other aspect to it is with more players, there's a lot more, I think, paths that you can take on this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone might be trying to beat you through the stuff, but if you build enough ships and trade okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could end up saving a bunch of, so for me, there's a couple of ways to go about this game, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely a brain burner, and it's definitely one that there's a lot of options to think about. So I like those kind of games. I like the fact, but it isn't a point salad. There's only a few ways to score in this. It's all cards or those in-game bonuses.
Yeah, but I think there's different ways to get there, and that makes it okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast today, and hopefully you'll come join us again and catch our next video. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. everyone. Today we got...
I wasn't ready. I was moving my
You
pen.
said you were ready.
I was moving my pen whenever you
You
did
can't
that.
unsay things.
I didn't say I was ready.
You did too.
When did I say I was ready?
Say, hey, I'm ready to do this review. I'm like, okay.
Whenever we were getting set up to go do it, I meant, let's do it so don't eat.
Hello, everyone. Today we got to play Anno 1800. So this is a... What game is this? What kind of game is this?
It's a board game.
I knew that!